Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you on a journey back in time. Over 12 years ago, a man with a passion for trekking and a belief that everyone should experience it embarked on a mission. That man was Arjun Majumdar, and with his colleague, he founded India Hikes. Their goal was simple yet ambitious to provide accurate information about trekking to the world and to inspire a love for the great outdoors in every individual. Through their tireless efforts, they have successfully spread the true spirit of trekking far and wide. And now, I have the great honor of introducing you to the man behind the mission, the founder and CEO of India Hikes, Arjun Majumdar. A true home bird, he finds solace in the pages of his books, but his passion for trekking and the outdoors is unmatched. With his leadership, India Hikes has become a beacon of hope for all those who seek adventure and a connection with nature. Without further ado, I would like to extend a warm welcome to JioEvents studio. Today, we are diving straight into a pool of questions that have been brewing in my mind. Welcoming Arjun Majumdar.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sai. It's really nice to
Thank
be
you.
here.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming. I will get started. Somebody who's experienced trekking with the India Hikes, so I'll just get started into the questions that I have in mind. So my first thing is like, how did you start India Hikes? What inspired you to start India Hikes, and what do you hope to achieve through the entire organization and the vision and mission of India Hikes?
Okay, that's many questions, but I will help to answer it. When we were trekking, when I was very young, in my 20s, mid 20s or so, trekking was not how you see it in our country today. Trekking was very difficult. It was very difficult to organize your own expeditions or your own treks. You could do one, you could do two, you could do three, but then beyond four or five, finding new treks to do was very difficult. And the basic problem was there was lack of information. And amongst our friends, when we would trek together, we would often talk about it, that look, this is a very central problem and how do we tackle it? And this was one problem. Even doing a trek was very difficult anywhere in our country. Trekking in Sikkim was one kind, trekking in Uttarakhand was another kind, trekking in Himachal was a third kind. And organizing these treks in these various regions of our country was very, very difficult. I'll give you a simple example is that every trek that we used to go, we had to buy kerosene. At that time, you didn't have gas or things like that to cook. So you have to buy kerosene and you have to use the pump stove to light a fire. The whole thing is, where do you buy kerosene from? Now, if I give you this one problem, you will know that how big the problem was in organizing an expedition. You could go, because kerosene was all under ration in our country. So you had to buy kerosene from the black market or wherever it is, you have to buy kerosene, and everybody would have limited quantity. Someone will give you 1 liter here, somebody will give you another liter there. But how do you organize that 10 or 12 liters that you need for your expedition? And you have to carry that entire kerosene all across the expedition for the 7 or 8 days. And it's a liquid thing, which has spills. If it spills, it burns, it smells, it spoils everything. It can fall on your food, it can do a lot of things. And at that time, you didn't have this airtight containers with plastic wrappers and all this kind of a thing. You had to take these. So if kerosene is one problem, you can imagine what the rest of the problem could be. So even getting information was difficult, even organizing treks was difficult. And India Hikes is basically a culmination of these two problems. Is that how do we solve the problems of information? Because trekking in our country wouldn't grow. Today Indians are trekking, but at that time India didn't trek. So I wanted to solve that, and that's how the birth of India Hikes came about. When I started writing about treks, when I started documenting trails, and those documentation became very popular in our country, and people started taking this documentation and started using it, and they found a lot of benefits because that documentation was very credible. And also in the way but nobody pays you for documentation, right? These are information. As trekkers, we share information. We don't ask people to pay us money for information. So these are something which you do out of your own free will. And that's something which we're still continuing to do. But then how do you continue to document trails? Because you need a body, you need an organization who can document trails. You just can't do it on your own. Your limited knowledge is 5-10 treks. Your friend may know another 5-10 treks, another friend may know another 5-10, but that's it. when you see the whole country, when you see from Eastern Ghats to Western Ghats to Sahyadris to Vindhyas to Himalayas, there are at least 500-600 treks that you can easily do in our country.
That's a
And
lot
then
of
the inspiration. And that's a lot of treks. India is blessed with a lot of trekking trails. It's one of the richest trekking trails in the world. Most countries that we have visited has probably 2 or 3 trekking trails, but India is filled with more than 400 or 500 active trekking trails that you can do, and that's a huge treasure that we have. But most people don't know where to go and how to do it, and that's where we came in, is to give that solution, give that information. So that's a little premiere of what India Hikes is, which we started about 14 years ago. And that's the journey we have been on, is to provide that information. So today, India Hikes is the largest database of trekking information in our country. A lot of people know India Hikes to be the largest trekking organization in the country. What people don't know is that we are the largest database of trekking information in our country, and more people use our documented treks to trek rather than the trekking with us.
got it. Yeah, it's amazing to know this thing because having the right information at a few of the places where you don't even have network up in the north is the most important way how to organize. And I feel that India Hacks has cracked the code there. It's amazing. As if I have to ask you, like, what is some of the advices that you would give to someone who is going on a trek for the very first time?
I think the only advice I would give to that person is to prepare. And prepare in many ways. Prepare with physical fitness, obviously. Prepare with your gears and prepare with your trek knowledge of that place. And you must not venture into any trek without some kind of preparation. And I would say preparation takes care of 90% of any issues that can come up.
Okay, so it's mainly on and how much does the physical fitness and mental fitness actually affect your trek?
Physical fitness does affect a lot. If you're The more you're prepared with your physical preparation, that easier becomes any trek. See, physical preparation is not required to do that trek.
Got it.
Physical preparation is required to take care of emergencies on a trek. So it may happen that you have done a trek like today. It's going on. It's raining and it's snowing up in the mountains. What happens if you go up to camp B and you discover it is snowing? You cannot pitch camp and you have to come back all the way down to camp A. That's where the physical preparation is required. So you need to be able to tackle emergencies. What happens if a friend of yours is not feeling well and you have to evacuate that person? What happens if you have to get the water from somewhere which is quite far off? So physical preparation is required. Not only that, you may have to set up your camp after a very long day of trekking. Maybe you finished your trek at 4 o'clock. And then you have to pitch your tents, and then you have to cook dinner, and then you have to write your journal. So it all requires physical preparation.
I have a follow up to this. Like, in your opinion, is there any important skills or qualities that a trekker should possess before or while going on a trek,
I think
or even
trekking,
after the trek is completed?
I believe trekking teaches you a lot of skills. What you need to come with is that level of preparation that I'm talking about in every aspect, in getting your gears in order, knowing about the trail, knowing about that place. But trekking will teach you a lot of things. Trekking will teach you resilience, trekking will give you a lot of confidence, trekking will teach you how to overcome difficulties, trekking will teach you a lot of these things. So trekking has a lot of goodness built into it. And once you start trekking, you kind of imbibe them.
True, true. I can relate to this because doing Sandakphu Follow with India Hikes, before and after Sandakphu Follow has been completely different. And our journey to Sandakphu Follow was not that easy. We couldn't see the views for the first 3 days. We went to the top and we couldn't see it. So it was a very different, memorable experience that, and when you see the views, it became even more memorable. So I can truly relate to that part. Talking about all these views and all the memorable things that we have during trekking, can you share particularly a memorable or a challenging trekking experience that you have had personally? And can you just give us a small brief about that experience?
That's a difficult one. See, I'll tell you what, there have been a lot of challenging treks. I remember we were doing the Kukti Pass trek. It's in Himachal Pradesh. It goes
Yeah.
from the Chamba side of Himachal to the Lahore side of Himachal, and it crosses to 16,500 feet. So it's a very high altitude trek, and we started the pass crossing. We started at 5 in the morning. It was a very difficult climb to the pass at 16,500 feet. Oxygen is low, and you are already out of energy, and you've reached the pass at around 9:30 in the morning. And you're expecting now that I'm top of the pass, I'll reach my camp in another hour or two. And we only end up reaching the next camp at 5 in the evening. It takes that long to clear all the moraines and all the rocky sections and finally get to the grasslands where you can pitch your tents. So those are treks. I won't say it is technically challenging, but it is mentally very grueling.
Got it.
And so like this, there was a Pin Bhava Pass trek that I was doing with Sandhya and I. We are just two of us doing this trek. And we reached the pass, and Sandhya was feeling a little bit of breathlessness and a little bit of AMS had come in, and it's just the two of us. So how do you tackle this situation? So that's where all your past skills and experience and everything comes, where you use that to go down to safety, and it takes a long time to go down to safety, and still you have to keep managing the situations as you keep going down until you. So these are all small challenges which you face on treks.
Speaking like about this safety aspect, right? I have experienced and I've heard a lot about this. So can you give from your perspective how did you ensure that there is safety and well-being for all your trekkers when they are with Indiahikes?
See, when we started with Indiahikes, I'm talking about 14 years ago, trekking in our country was in such a condition that nobody thought of safety. Safety was not. You go on treks, आप मजे कर रहे हो, आप वापस आते रहो. I mean, safety was not part of the kit, and that bothered us. That bothered me quite a bit. And I said, you cannot trek like this without a safety, this thing. So we started researching on safety. In our country, there's no concept of safety. You go there, if you die, you die. It was like that. So then we didn't like that. So for even the smallest thing, how do you manage oxygen saturation, to how do you manage your slipping and falling on treks, to how do you manage communication, how do you manage to not even get into a situation like that. So all safety processes, procedures that you see in our country today, it has come over a period of time of constantly working on it and revising it, working on it, revising it. And I'm telling you, it's 14 years now, and everybody knows Indiahikes is the safest trekking organization. But frankly speaking, if you ask me, there's a lot more journey to do, and there's a lot more safety things which you can bring in. A lot of technology can come in, a lot of equipment can come in, a lot of processes can come in, a lot of skills can come in.
So, to follow up with this, is there any trek that Indiahikes paused for a while to ensure more safety to the trekkers, and then they restarted it again? Probably the Everest Base Camp. I think Indiahikes started it again right now.
Yeah, but that's not because of safety reasons. I'll tell you one trek which we don't do because of safety reasons. Now, there's a very beautiful trek in our country which is called the Pin Parvati Pass. It's a very beautiful trek. It's a crossover trek from the Spiti side to the Parvati side, or the the Himachal, the greener Himachal side. It's a long trek, but there are sections on this trek where you have to climb on overhangs which overlooks the river, and it's on boulders.
Okay.
And the river is gushing right under your feet, about 15 feet down, and you're on top of boulders. And you have to kind of traverse that boulders and go to the other side, and there are 3 or 4 sections like that. You cannot put ropes there. You cannot put any safety equipment there. You just have to use your own skills of going there. No trek leader, no guide can help you cross that section. And that frightened us, because I may be able to do it, but a trekker may not be able to do it. So we have stopped doing that trek because safety worries us. And no matter how much technology I bring in, no matter how many safety gears I bring in, I cannot prevent you from slipping and falling if something happens. So we have stopped doing that trek. So like that, there are a lot of treks in our country which we will not venture. Like there is this trek, very high altitude trek, where there are a lot of crevasses on the trek, on the glacier. Now this crevices open and shut all the time.
Got it.
So we won't want to venture there, where it may be covered by a layer of snow and you cannot see the crevice. And you may get in waist deep, or even your entire body may get inside. And people end up not being alive. So those are the kind of treks where we will never venture. Where we know we can provide safety, only there we venture.
We venture. Wow. That's a really good thing that Indiahikes actually keeps safety at the topmost priority with with the trekking experience. Having safety as the topmost priority, there is another thing that I have observed with Indiahikes, that they keep it on priority, which is sustainability. And how do you want to phrase this thing and say how Indiahikes approaches sustainability and responsible tourism practices that can come during the trek, and when in the areas that you organize the treks properly?
See, when we look at sustainability, we don't look at it as of today. We look at it, say, 15 years, 20 years from now, when our children will be trekking, or the next generation is going to be trekking. We have to leave the mountains or the trekking trails in a condition which can be enjoyed by the next generation. So we are always constantly thinking about the future. It's not about how the trekking trails are now. So we have to bring in system and processes which will preserve the trekking trails for the future. Now, the realistic picture is, even though the governments are very interested in doing the same thing, their hands are tied because the manpower is very little. You cannot have a forest department at every place. You cannot say, one guard is going to be here, another person is going to be there. It's not possible. So the onus of maintaining and making it better comes on organizations like us. And why us particularly? Because we are the kind of the pioneers of trekking in our country. We have set all the trekking system, the trekking processes, the trekking trails. Even the sustainability systems are what being set by Indiahikes, because looking at us, others learn from it and they also do it. So we are at the forefront of bringing in more and more sustainability practices, whether it is in managing our water resources, whether it's managing our firewood resources, or whatever it is, or even the practices within the organization. We need to become carbon negative before we can even do anything else. So it's actually keeping in mind your children who are going to be trekking 20 years from now.
And I think to add up to that thing, the eco bags and the sustainable water usage solution that Indiahikes has come up with, it's a great plus to all the trekkers while trekking, I feel.
See, I agree with that, and we pick up tons of waste from the litter, from the trails, and everybody knows that. But frankly speaking, that's just the surface. The real problem and solution that we are working on is what nobody can see, is bringing in processes of actually running treks by being carbon neutral or carbon negative, by ensuring that no packaged food comes up to the trail, by ensuring that we are eliminating a lot of our processes. So a lot of changes have happened on the menu, a lot of changes have happened to our trek and how we organize it, how we even get things on the slope, where thousands of trekkers are going through it, which is not visible to people.
So that's a really nice initiative, and I don't think it's just like a one-time thing that Indiahikes does. They try to continue it and evolve on the sustainable part of it. So there's this another thing that I would like to know from you, that considering trekking is getting popular right now in India, so there are a lot of places that have been overcrowded. For example, Kedarkanta trek. A lot of organizations do that trek in that same path, and what are those like? How does Indiahikes come up with choosing the routes and the destinations and what are the factors that come into consideration to give a good trekking experience to the trekker?
Okay, I think there are two questions here, but I will start with your first one, the overcrowding of trails. I don't know whether you're aware, but in Kedarkanta trek was introduced to the trekking world by Indiahikes.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah,
I'm
aware of that.
Now today it's one of India's most popular treks, and it's truly what you have said. It's become overcrowded, especially in winters. And
in the peak
this is
seasons.
a sad reality of a country that there are certain trails like Kedarkanta, Hamta Pass, few other treks in a Kashmir Great Lakes, a few other which have become absolutely overcrowded. And the only solution to do is to do other treks, to open new treks, to bring out new treks where people can go and enjoy it and say that, okay, I didn't do Kedarkanta, but I did Fulara Ridge and I find it equally good. And I
Wow.
find it a lot of fun doing this trek as well. So that's where we come in, is where we try to open up new trails, bring out new treks in our country, like the recent Rantan Kharak trek in Kumaon. Nobody has trekked in Kumaon. That trail is deserted. But when people start doing the trek, then they realize that, okay, Kedarkant is not the end of all treks, and
Trekking. Yeah.
there are other great treks to do, and perhaps they're even better than Kedar. So the solution to that is to have more treks in our country where people can do. And that's why I said, India has 400-500 treks. If
Yeah.
you're going to be restricted to doing only that 15-20 treks, then our treks are gone.
Got it. Like, so how many treks do you all add on? Like, what's the frequency? Because adding a trek by an organization, it takes a lot of time because you have to trial and test the routes, check the conditions, check the food availability, check the safety that can happen, the evacuation methods. So how many treks do you all see to add on year, or like how frequently do you add on?
No, it's not like that. See, but the thing is that we are constantly exploring treks. It's not, and the purpose of exploring trails is not always to add on treks to our collection of.
Collection. Got it.
It is meant for, as I said, no, we document trails, we bring out that information. So we keep documenting trails, exploring and documenting so that you can do the trek on your own. You don't need Indiahikes to do it. So it's a continuous effort from our side, and even as we are speaking, our people are always out exploring new treks in this thing. Also, we have a very close association with many state governments. So state governments like from Manipur, Meghalaya, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand. So we work very closely with them, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, to bring out new trails in that region. Because the purposes of bringing out new treks have multiple benefits. It's just not about opening new treks. So we are working very closely with them. Out of these, maybe one or two we may think that, okay, you know what, let's open it. It looks like very exciting thing to do. But 90% of it, we don't open it to public. We just open it for documentation.
Got it. I- what are those lesser known or off the beaten paths or treks that probably you have been on? Or I wouldn't just confine this question to saying that India Hikes offers, but what are those the trekking destinations that are off the beaten paths, and probably the ones that probably you might have explored, or some of your team members might have explored, and it's worth exploring those paths.
There are many endless treks that we have. I was telling you a little while ago about that experience of Kukti Pass. I want to tell you,
Yes.
we did the Kukti Pass in 2010 or 2011. Even now in 23, we have not opened the trek for people to do. But it's a great trek to do. If you ever do it, you will love it.
Oh,
So, so treks like these, or even that recently, we have done this treks in Kumaon. There are a lot of treks over there we have done. So our country is filled with this thing. And for example, you have done Sandakfu, and that's why I'm using that Sandakfu as an example. The Singalila Ridge has a lot of extensions.
yes.
So we have an extension which goes into Nepal, it comes back to India, and you can do those treks. And we have these treks in Arunachal Pradesh, which you can do. You have treks in Meghalaya, we can do. You have treks in Mizoram, you can do. And we have done the Tamanglang and all those treks which you can do. So they are great treks. And I would very much encourage people to find the documentation on the website and just take it and do it. You need a little bit of organizing skills, but they are beautiful treks to do. So there are many. You just have to go to our website. There are hundreds of treks to do.
Got it. So India Hikes has this great motto that says everyone must trek, and I would like to know from the founder side about this motto, and how did you all come up with this thing, and why do you believe so much in this motto?
It's been there right from the very beginning. See, earlier our country didn't trek.
Yeah.
And I wanted our country to trek, and that's how the name of our organization is also Indiahikes. We
Yes.
wanted our country to trek, and
That's a nice add-on that you've given to this answer to give how the name came up.
yes, it's true. And that's how our country started trekking. And today our country is trekking. And the reason why we wanted people to trek is very simple, because the kind of changes we have seen in ourselves, the changes we see in others, it's a huge transformative experience when people trek. It transforms lives in many ways. Some big, some small, some new insights. A lot of things happen when you trek. I have not seen any sport in my life which has only positives in it, just like trekking does. Any other sport I can find something negative here, but trekking is one thing which requires only your two legs, and all that's all. You just have to walk from one place to another, and that's it. It doesn't require money, it doesn't require anything. You just need a backpack, shoes, and you can just start trekking, and it has only goodness. So that's why we want everyone to trek, because there is so much of goodness when people connect with the outdoors, when people connect with nature, when people connect with themselves. Only good things happen. And
True.
as you have rightly said, that your experience and Sandakpur before and after are two different persons that you're talking about. And these things happen with almost everyone who goes on a trek with us. So, events, such good things are happening to people. Why wouldn't you want everyone to trek? But that doesn't mean you trek with India. We just want everyone to trek.
To track. Got it. I would like to ask my last question, probably of this talk show, and that is very future related thing. So, how do you see the future of trekking or adventure tourism, not only in India but also around the world? How do you see it evolving in the coming years?
See, trekking is very small in a country even now. Don't go by the number of trekkers who go with Indiahikes. Trekking is still very, very small in our country. India has just started to taking to adventure sports. So in our country, the scope of adventure sports and trekking particularly is, we haven't, we are just starting. So it's growing, and it's growing by leaps and bounds across the thing as more and more trails open up, as more and more treks come up. And the good thing is our country has started to experiment with trekking, which was not there even few years earlier. Earlier they would follow where one person goes, the second person goes. But now our country has started experimenting with different kinds of treks, different genres of trek, different kinds of treks. Some people focus only on grassland treks, some focus on alpine treks, some focus on forest treks, some focus on beach. So these things have started to happen in our country. Vis-a-vis the world, India has never been an adventure tourism destination for the rest of the world. But that's slowly changing, very, very slowly, very perceptibly, but it is changing. And I expect in about 15, 20 years from now that India will also be part of the adventure tourism circuit in the world. Like how New Zealand is, like how Germany is, or like how Italy is. India too will come into that. This thing with more global exposure that is happening, more people are getting this. See, we have started 14 years, but our trekkers are now there across the world, and they talk and they tell about how it is to trek in India. And when they compare trekking in other countries, they realize that no, trekking in India is not as bad as we thought, and there's lots of goodness about it. So they go and talk to their friends in Germany, in Italy, in France, in US, and Britain, or wherever they are. So India is slowly changing, and I expect in 15, 20 years, yes, India will also be part of that adventure tourism map in the world.
That's amazing. That's a really nice thing to know. We're not growing only on the technology side, but we're growing closer to the nature as well. And we'll be very soon on the world map. Um, Arjun sir, I must say this has been a truly special and an insightful conversation. I want to express my heartful gratitude to you for taking your time out of such a busy schedule and to join us and share about yourself and your passion about trekking. As someone who has experienced transformating power of trekking, I wholeheartedly right now believe in the formula that everyone must trek, and I hope our viewers are inspired and they gear up and embark on this amazing outdoor experience that everybody should have. Once again, thank you so much, Arjun sir, for your valuable insights and for being such an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you so much, Sai. Thank you. It was really nice meeting you.
Thank you so much. Guys, if you all enjoyed this video and found it insightful, please do hit the like button and share it with your contacts. We at JioEvents Studio are committed to bring you more such content on a variety of topics, from tech to cultural to many n number of inspiring talks. To stay updated and never miss on any of your content, do subscribe to our channel and follow us on our social media handles. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to never miss any update, a single update from us. With that, we bid you adios and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.